EIDL grant. Is it being held up because of inconsistency in what you reported to SBA for your banking account information in EIN and what you have on record with the IRS? This is a new major update for May 5th, 2020 from LALATE. As usual, subscribe and like below. All right, we're answering for the first time all your questions in this video daily update as well. So a lot of new information, a lot of surprising new details. First, let's back up. On Monday, a lot of you were confused and dropped in the comments that you had applied for a new EIDL grant based upon other videos on other channels. I'm sorry, but no EIDL grant went live on Monday. What went live on Monday was an EIDL loan that is not even for all of us. It's only an EIDL loan for agricultural businesses. The application for that loan looks very familiar to the EIDL grant. So if you did apply on Monday, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to come of it because you're not an agricultural business. You'll be denied. The next question that I want to post to you and raise the answer is what's going on with a lot of your checks. On Friday, we dropped a major bombshell that a lot of you were receiving checks in a major drop from SBA. These were checks that were due for applications as far back as April 4th, even 14th, or even earlier. On Saturday, some of you got emails saying thank you and your application is still being processed. First, I will update you as following. That email you should basically disregard at this point. There's no indication of what's still being processed for you. Second, the fact that some of you got the email, some of you didn't, doesn't mean anything. Third, if you received a portion of $10,000, not the full $10,000, you're not receiving the remainder of the $10,000 anytime soon. A lot of channels, again with clickbait, are suggesting to you that you're going to receive the rest of the $10,000. There is nothing on bill with members of Congress to get you the remaining $10,000. There are letters, and who cares if someone writes a letter? Everyone writes a letter, but there are letters from members of Congress to SBA to pay the remainder of the $10,000. Finally, some of you have dropped in comments and questions, can you apply for a new EIDL grant? No, the window is closed. And so here we are back up to the present. Here's my guidance for you. Today is Tuesday. If you have seen a credit check run last week and you don't see a payment by this Wednesday, by tomorrow, I'd call SBA. If you have seen no activity on your EIDL grant application since the date at which was filed, call SBA. The only case in which I don't think you should need to call SBA is the following. If you see a credit check done in the last 3 to 5 business days, you're fine. It's generally when you are raising questions to me in these channel comments that you see a credit check in the last 3 to 5 business days, and I would say that's too soon. Don't worry about it. I mean, you can call SBA, but I don't think it's too soon to be concerned. And you should need to throw 1 to 2 business days on top of that. All right, let's get to your questions right now. So, Beauty Babe said, the CARES Act says if you are denied for the loan portion, you get the advance. Your credit shouldn't stop the advance. Very good point. But that is what has happened. There is enough indication to suggest that credit checks have been done and that there's something happening as a result of the credit checks. There's no indication that someone's been denied an EIDL grant based upon bad credit. There is more than enough comments in the comments of people who either had bad credit or had no credit checked and still got the EIDL grant. What we have seen, however, is where people have applied for both the EIDL grant and the EIDL loan back in March, and that somehow triggered a review of their credit and somehow has delayed the process. Our Kamala says, I don't have credit, so I don't know if that'll affect me or getting it or not. I applied twice, May 30th and April 6th, and I've gotten nothing yet. It's not advised to apply twice. If you had applied twice, then so be it. If you applied under the original form that has been discontinued and reapplied, great. But if you applied both under the new form that went live around March 30th and then thereafter before April 14th, you didn't need to do it. If you haven't heard anything since April 6th, you need to call SBA. Karina asks, I filed my EIG on the 4th and I was told it was being processed and I asked to see if I was receiving the grant. My question is whether I should apply for PUA. And then she references what people are talking about on other channels. PUA versus EIDL. We talked about that actually in an LALATE story today. EIDL grant is different than PUA. if you went on your POA Act, if you applied for a POA, you had to disclose whether you had received an EIDL grant at the time that you applied for the POA application. If you, excuse me, let me back up. If you POA and EIDL have nothing to do with one or the other. It's PPP and EIDL that has something to do with one another. If you applied for a PPP loan and during the PPP process, you're asked to identify whether or not you got EIDL grant money. But if you hadn't gotten EIDL grant, that you was merely just processed, you're fine. In any regard, you always have to disclose to a PPP lender whether or not you got EIDL grant money. As to PUA, they're different instruments. PUA and EIDL grants are quite different, and there's nothing at the moment to suggest or indicate that one tramples or not or applies to the other. But as always, confirm that is true with your state unemployment website. All right, Brian off topic says, where are you from? I can't figure out your accent. I'm from here, Los Angeles. Dolly says, called again SBA today. Spoke to an individual by the name of Mark. Credit check got pulled on 4/17. The last email I got was on Saturday, like everyone else. I got to a tier 2 person, and I haven't heard anything else. Bottom line is, if you haven't heard anything and it's past that 3 to 5 business day window, you should really call SBA. Ressi says, great video, LALATE. So I put my spouse's banking information, but my business is under my name. Will that definitely stop me from getting it, or should I call them? This will trigger a big problem for you, Ressi. As we indicated in yesterday's video, they are cross-checking 2 different things, both the name, the EIL, actually 3 things, and the bank account. As we indicated in yesterday's video, there's an issue about third-party checks. If your application was for a business, for an LLC, but you listed a personal banking account, the personal bank account may not receive the funds. SBA may try to effectuate transfer the funds, may have finished your application, may have tried to send you the funds, and the funds may not actually be received. Chris says, I received my EIDL grant today. I applied on April 7th, received the grant to date, no credit check done. Will I be able to get an EIDL loan also? No, Chris. If you did not apply for an EIDL loan back in March, then that window is not reopened unless you're agriculture as of yesterday. If you did apply for an EIDL loan back in March, some of them are being processed still. They are very, very backlogged. Ed says, when I go to apply to the main page, how come I can't get the application to come up for the EIDL grant? Very simply, there is no EIDL grant application being received. Today, what went live yesterday was an EIDL loan for agricultural individuals. Mary says, I just got the EIDL grant today, no credit check. Mary is one of many individuals who are reporting the same. They are seeing that in their cases, there was no credit check done. Philip said, hey, LLA, thanks for sharing the update on EIDL. I have an LLC with 2 employees. I plan on applying for a portal when the back goes back up. Would I be able to get more loan when it gets approved under the new process? Well, you're asking about a loan, and this is about a grant, but let me refer to both of them. EIDL grant does not look like it's coming back anytime soon. And EIDL loan is currently not approved anywhere unless you're agricultural business. So in this regards, I would not focus your attention there. I'd put them on PUA if you do apply. John Doe says, I applied March 29th. When the new application went live, my approximate number was this. Credit check April 13th, nothing. Well, I'm sure I was ahead of a lot of people, but nothing. I'm a C Corp. Nothing has changed. I do have a newer one on my EIN. I think by not sending the DBA in, though, it has my business name. Maybe let me know your thoughts. He says that basically when he applied for the EIL, for the grant, he provided the DBA, and the DBA has his social security number. This is exactly the problem I'm talking about. These people may not be looking at documents. It may be very automated. It may be done by a system. So if the grant application for EIDL grant says a corporation, and it says an EIN, it's going to check it. It's going to check the name literally to the word and the spelling to make sure it's all correct. It's going to check the EIN and make sure it's correct. If it's the wrong EIN, and if it's the wrong spelling of the name, it's going to bounce it or or do something about it. Maybe put it for human review. Now, the next thing is if the banking information is off, it's going to bounce it or cause human review as well. The fact that you listed a DBA, if you're going to a DBA, which has a social security number, and the application is under a corp and a C corp, and that is anything that has an inconsistency. If you see any inconsistency in how you did things, that's cause for concern. How do you fix it? Call SBA. Call SBA. There's absolutely no way else to figure it out. There's no other new application right now. Kawoki Sanders says, I applied on 4/2, got both emails. Not quite sure what 2 emails it is, but great. No credit check, no grant. Called SBA on May 4th, was told, you just have to hang in there. And I even told them it's been 4 weeks. She told me she could do nothing with my application. Common response we got from a few people. Some people got good SBA people on the phone. Other people got what this individual got. Recommendation, call SBA again on another day and speak to another person. You got to keep on calling until you get someone that helps you, which is the case in many businesses. Demetrius says, I was denied due to no credit history. I have a low credit score. And then he provides a quote. We evaluated your credit and related information. Based upon the information we obtained, we are regretfully unable to approve your application. We base upon this information upon Hyperion. It also says that he applied for an EIDL loan. It's not quite clear if Demetrius is saying that he was denied for a grant based upon credit or a loan. It completely makes sense that EIDL loans are being denied for bad credit, but grants are not supposed to be denied for credit. It is a serious issue here because EIDL applications for grants are done on the EIN's credit history. It's not done on the individual's credit history. A loan requires an individual to be responsible for the loan, even if the application is for the business. That's why there's a credit check on the loan, the loan applicant in some cases. It's unclear for Demetrius what happened there. If it is a loan, I'm sorry. If it's a grant, it doesn't make sense. I would call SBA. It doesn't make sense. Reese says I filled out 3 EIDL grant applications. Wait a second. Shouldn't be filling out 3, Reese. Should only be filling out 1. What happens if you fill out multiple? That's a great question. They're basically going to do the first one that's right. She said since March 26. Okay, well, that's good. If you applied early on with the wrong one, you had to apply again. The last application I did was for the short one that had the checkbox for the $10,000. Great. So she did it twice when it was wrong, so those are bounced, and she got 1 later when it was right. Yesterday, the rep said it's not a grant, it's a loan offer with an advancement of the form of a grant. Yeah, we all know that, but it's a grant. The rep said my credit was pulled on the 14th of April. Well, I'd call SBA again. That's too long. 14th of April, people have been paid who applied on the 14th of April. She applied, it looks like she applied in early April. If your credit was pulled on April 14th, you should call SBA. Georgette said she got paid on Friday, no credit check. Good, Georgette. And Wayne Montgomery says, just spoke to someone at my local SBA office, and they say they are now, get ready for this, now doing data matching information with the IRS and Experian business credit. In other words, they're using and matching business EINs to IRS records. This is a big one. As soon as I saw this comment come through, I copied and pasted it, but you can see it was the last and the big one for today. This appears to be sort of consistent with what we've been talking over the last few days. Bank accounts that are inconsistent, your bank account that you gave is wrong, the spelling of the business might be different, you may list your personal social security number and not the EIN, but this one is the biggest one. That they're basically cross-checking with IRS and Experian business credit. What are they checking? They're not checking the credit. They're checking, namely, that there is some sort of inconsistency that's going on. And what does that mean? You know, it basically means that when you file paperwork with the federal government, you have to make sure that that information is true and consistent. Now, why may they also be checking it? Because they want to make sure it's you. There is a very big concern, and we're going to raise this in the other videos we're doing today, that there's a concern by SBA and other organizations that people applying for things are not the people themselves. And so by cross-checking with IRS and Experian may not be to just see whether there's bad credit, but to confirm that this is really that actual person. If the addresses are different, bam. If the EIN is slightly different, wrong. If the bank account is different, big warning sign. You may think that the banking account information is just because, you filled it out wrong. They think it may be someone trying to use the identity of a business to get an EIDL grant. It's that issue that is the core. This is day 8 of the channel. What a big 8 days it's been. Subscribe and like. We're going to try doing this as we go forward, answering your questions here on the daily update. So if you have questions, subscribe, like, and say, hey, LALATE, I subscribed. Here's my question. Start off by here's my question, so we know there's something that we need to address for tomorrow. The rest of you, if you got paid, if you got an EIDL grant paid, drop in the comments. Say when you got paid, what day you got paid, whether you got a credit check, whether there wasn't a credit check. It helps everyone else. Yeah, I only put out a few pages, but these are just the questions. There was hundreds of great, fascinating, and helpful remarks by everyone else talking about when they had submitted and how they submitted and when they got their information. So a lot of stuff today. We're going to be doing 5 videos: EIDL grant, SBA loan, EIDL loan, CARES Act, PUA, and this one. As always, stay with LALATE for more.